If there is one thing Rick and Morty excels at besides existential dread and traumatizing its fan base, it's absolutely wrecking entire civilizations. So, I did what any responsible person would do. I rewatched every episode, chugged way too much caffeine, and crunched the numbers to figure out just how many times Rick and Morty have caused the end of the world. Let's start with the time Rick and Morty caused the apocalypse in Season 1, Episode 6, Rick Potion number 9. Morty's got one goal in life, to impress Jessica. But the poor kid has the social skills of a malfunctioning Roomba, and Jessica's jock boyfriend Brad isn't making things any easier. So, when the school's flu season dance rolls around, Morty starts scheming on how to finally win her over. Naturally, he turns to Jerry, who has the romantic wisdom of a wet sock, for advice. Jerry, in all his infinite relationship expertise, reminisces about how he was so in love with Beth as a teenager.
Break it to you, but what people call love is just a chemical reaction that compels animals to breed. It hits hard, Morty, then it slowly fades.
Rick stomps in to remind Jerry that his marriage is barely functional and that Beth is actively looking for an excuse to leave. Classic Rick. Morty, disturbed by this insight into his parents' mess of a relationship, decides he needs a shortcut to Levin asks Rick for a potion to make Jessica fall for him. Rick, being the self-proclaimed smartest man in the universe, whips up a 100% foolproof love serum based on Vole DNA. Since Vole's apparently made for a live SE, Morty, thrilled, doesn't even hesitate to take it. Just before he leaves, Rick throws in a little disclaimer.
Hey, there's no dangers or anything or side effects, right?
Whoa, what am I, a hack? Go nuts, Morty. It's foolproof. Unless she has the flu.
Which, of course, Jessica absolutely does, but Rick shrugs it off and we all know what that means. Nothing good is coming. Morty heads to the dance and wastes no time spiking Jessica with the potion. Instantly, she locks onto him with laser-focused affection. This is it. This is the moment Morty's been waiting for. Jessica loves him. But then, she sneezes. And suddenly, Brad is in love with Morty too. Then the flu-laced potion spreads through the entire dance, and before Morty can process what's happening, the entire school is desperately, violently in love with him. Jessica's friend tackles him, students start brawling over who gets to claim him, and even the teachers aren't immune.
I love Morty, and I hope Morty loves me. I'd like to wrap my arms around him and feel him inside me.
Oh crap!
Morty barely escapes with his life and stumbles into Rick, who is already holding an antidote because he immediately realized he had made a mistake. Rick proudly announces that he's used praying mantis DNA to counteract the Vole-based love spell because science. Morty, still processing how things went wrong so fast, doesn't even question this. Rick releases the antidote, and for one brave, beautiful moment, it seems to work. Then, everyone starts growing mantis limbs. Rick, unfazed, casually explains that mantises only mate once before decapitating their partners. So now, instead of just being in love with Morty, the entire human race also wants to eat him alive. At this point, the apocalypse is officially underway. People are mutating at breakneck speed, the world is in absolute chaos, and Morty is now the most desirable meal on the planet. Meanwhile, Jerry, completely oblivious to the fact that the world is collapsing, is spiraling over whether Beth still loves him. Deciding he has to know, he drives to her hospital only to hit a full-blown military roadblock. Finding a shotgun in an abandoned police car, Jerry goes full-action hero mode here and blasts his way through. While Rick and Morty flee to the desert to cook up another antidote, Jerry crashes into Beth's workplace like a tattered, blood-stained lunatic, just in time to brutally kill her co-worker, who was mid-transformation. Somehow, this entire sequence turns Jerry into the hero of Beth's eyes. Back in the desert, Morty is watching the world collapse while Rick, completely unbothered, mixes up a third serum. Rick proudly lists off the genetic ingredients: cola, rattlesnake, chimpanzee, cactus, golden retriever, shark, and dinosaur. Morty, finally snapping after hours of pure terror, demands to know how that's supposed to fix anything. Rick, insulted by Morty's skepticism, decides he doesn't have to explain himself. In sheer exhaustion, Morty grabs the vial and dumps it into the atmosphere himself. At first, it seems like they finally won. people start returning to normal. Then, they start mutating into grotesque, skin-melting abominations. Rick, staring at the nightmarish disaster, turns to Morty and sarcastically congratulates him on becoming the mayor of I Told You So Town. Earth is officially unfixable. The world is completely lost. Rick, finally out of ideas, gives up. Morty, absolutely broken, demands to know what they're going to do now. Cut to the garage where Morty, somehow believing Rick actually fixed things, celebrates their victory. Then Rick flips a switch and boom, both of them explode. But wait, our Rick and Morty just stepped through a portal.
Alright, Morty, here we are.
Oh my god, Rick! Is that us? We're dead! What is going on, Rick? I'm freaking out!
Yeah, they didn't fix Earth. Instead, Rick found a different universe where he and Morty had conveniently just died, and they're taking over. Morty, still horrified and shaking, buries his own corpse in the backyard, while Rick just tells him not to think about it. Morty sits inside, staring blankly at his new home, realizing he's now trapped in a completely different reality where his own family doesn't know what he just went through. Meanwhile, back on doomed Earth, the original Smith family left behind in the Cronenberg apocalypse has gone full Mad Max. Jerry, Beth, and Summer are living out of an armored van, roasting a mutated corpse over a fire. The kicker? They don't even miss Rick and Morty. And just to top off the insanity, we see Cronenberg, Rick, and Cronenberg Morty stepping into their own portal, leaving behind a dimension where they accidentally cured everyone into being normal humans. So, to recap, Morty asked for a love potion. Rick ignored multiple warning signs. They triggered an apocalyptic love plague. The cure turned everyone into mantis monsters. A second cure turned them into Cronenberg nightmares. Rick and Morty jumped to another dimension and abandoned their original family. And all of this happened because Morty wanted a date. Rick, for all his genius, never even tried to take real responsibility. Instead, he rewrote reality to dodge consequences. Morty, on the other hand, completely traumatized. Next up, we have the time Rick and Morty messed with time so badly that reality itself started falling apart. Season 2, Episode 1, A Wrinkle in Time, kicks off with Rick, Morty, and Summer still living in frozen time, thanks to Rick pausing reality at the end of Season 1. What was supposed to be a quick freeze frame to clean up their mess turned into 6 months of absolute nonsense.
Oh my god, is that mildew?
It's not my fault we froze time on a humid day.
You have dropped so many balls, man. Do you ever get scared Grandpa Rick might make me his new sidekick?
But now, Rick's ready to unfreeze time and get everything back to normal. Well, as normal as things ever are when Rick is involved. Before flipping the switch, he gives a classic Rick pep talk, which is mostly just him yelling at Morty and Summer about not touching anything, especially their parents. Because in Rick's expert opinion, they're so unstable that even a single misstep could literally destroy them. With zero confidence in his own plan, Rick unfreezes time.
What?
Away we go!
Did we ever put that mattress under Mr. Benson?
Immediately, a man falls off a roof. Jerry and Beth look extremely confused, and Rick tries to brush it all off like nothing weird just happened. But things are definitely weird. Morty and Summer get into an argument about who Rick likes more, which, because this is Rick and Morty, immediately fractures time into 2 separate timelines. So now, instead of just one reality where things are barely being held together, there are 2 parallel realities competing for existence. And it only gets worse from here.
Oh god, oh no. What did you guys just do?
What did who do? Wait, what am I saying?
Were either of you guys uncertain about anything just now?
Oh man, I don't feel good. Am I talking right now? I think so. Wait, who said that?
Rick blames Morty and Summer for the mess, explaining that their uncertainty is literally breaking time apart. And because Rick can't do anything without mocking people, he roasts them both about how little he cares about them, brutally. But then, the unthinkable happens. Rick himself becomes uncertain. This means time fractures again, creating 4 parallel realities. Now there are 4 Ricks, 4 Mortys, and 4 Summers, and they're all trying to fix the same problem while simultaneously doubting themselves. And what happens when Rick Sanchez starts doubting himself? paranoia, violence, and a full-blown gunfight between himself and himself.
It was always in the back of my mind too. The difference is I would never do it! Until now.
Rick, what the hell are you doing?
Saving our lives! After he takes me out, he's gonna be coming for you!
Who?
Me! Who? You see that? Get down! I told you! He's a psycho! He's lost it! The time pressure must have made him crazy! I don't know what to do! I don't know what to do!
Because why work together when you can just try to murder your alternate selves? At this point, Morty, tired of Rick's nonsense, smashes him over the head with a blunt object, knocking him out and stuffing him into a dog crate. Morty showing actual survival instincts for once. But while Rick is knocked out and not making things worse, Summer and Morty are still stuck in a swirling nightmare of fractured realities. Meanwhile, Jerry and Beth are fighting for the right to a deer. Instead of just letting nature take its course, Beth goes full surgeon mode and tries to save it. But just as she's about to perform emergency deer surgery, a hunter shows up and declares, "That deer is mine." Yes, that's right. This man legally claims ownership of the deer because he technically shot it first before Jerry hit it with his car. And Brad's law, an actual legal loophole, gives him the rights. Beth, unwilling to back down from a random legal battle over roadkill, fights for deer custody and outright ignores the hunter's lawyer, choosing instead to finish the surgery. Meanwhile, Jerry, in peak Jerry fashion, tries to help but ultimately just screws things up worse. While all of this is happening, time itself is still literally splitting apart. But sure, let's focus on the deer. Back in the garage, things have escalated dramatically. The time police, yes, that's a thing, shows up to arrest Rick for illegally tampering with time. And because Rick Sanchez takes no responsibility for anything ever, he immediately fights back. The fourth dimensional being tries to fix the timeline, but Rick, Morty, and Summer decide to attack him instead.
I cannot argue that.
Oh, God, gross and weird!
Chris! You killed my gun!
What follows is a time-bending, fourth-wall-breaking battle where Rick, Morty, and Summer punch this guy across multiple fractured dimensions until he is defeated. The only problem? Time is now fractured into 64 versions. 64! If reality was barely holding on before, it's basically duct tape and a prayer at this point. And the beatdown of the time cop, Rick finally figures out how to fix things using time-stabilizing collars. Simple enough, right? Wrong. Morty's collar immediately breaks, and before anyone can react, he falls into the void of spaceless nothingness. Rick, in an extremely rare moment of actual self-sacrifice, dives in after him. The only problem? Rick gave Morty his only working collar, which means Rick is now floating in the black abyss of infinite time, facing actual death. For a moment, Rick accepts his fate. Then he spots a broken time collar floating nearby, cue Rick frantically fixing it while simultaneously bargaining with God. And in classic Rick fashion, the moment the collar works, Rick immediately declares, "Screw you, God," and teleports back to reality. Classic. With the timeline finally stabilized, Rick, Morty, and Summer return home just in time for Jerry to make fun of them. For once, Rick gets a taste of his own medicine. As Morty gleefully points out, doesn't feel good, does it? Rick actually admits that being the butt of the joke sucks. But being Rick, he immediately shrugs it off and moves on. And just in case we needed more evidence that time itself is now chill, the post-credit scene shows the time police mistaking Albert Einstein for Rick and beating him up for it.
Hey man, remember me? I got something for your ass. Don't mess with time. You don't fuck with time, motherfucker.
Einstein, furious at being wrongfully assaulted by time-traveling weirdos, goes on to discover E equals MC squared out of spite. Because why not? And all of this happened because Rick can't admit he cares about his grandkids. If there is one takeaway here, it's never ever mess with time. Because if you do, you'll either break reality or somehow end up fighting over a dying deer.